Tokyo, November 1943. The rain falls steadily outside Naval General Staff Headquarters, tapping against tall windows like impatient fingers. Inside a narrow briefing room, senior officers sit rigidly at a long table, uniforms immaculate, faces unreadable. Commander Takahashi's report lies open before them. No one speaks at first. The silence is heavier than anger. Vice Admiral Shigeru Fukudome finally breaks it, his voice low and deliberate. "You are telling us," he says, "that our aircraft were intercepted repeatedly without visual contact." Takahashi stands at attention. "Yes, sir." "And that American fighters engaged at night with accuracy equal to daylight combat." "Yes, sir." A murmur passes through the room, skepticism mixed with unease. For months, Japanese commanders have dismissed American radar as crude and unreliable. They have seen early warning systems before. They know machines can malfunction. They believe human judgment still decides battles. But reports like Takahashi's are no longer isolated. They are becoming routine. In the weeks that follow, night losses climb. Over Rabaul, over Truk, over the Solomon Islands. Entire formations fail to return. Staff officers begin compiling maps covered in red pins, each one marking an aircraft lost at night. The pattern is unmistakable. Wherever American radar coverage overlaps, Japanese aircraft vanish. Still, some commanders resist the conclusion. Our pilots are fatigued. The Americans are exaggerating their capabilities. These are coincidences. But coincidence does not repeat itself this precisely. Out in the field, the change is already visible. Veteran pilots, men who once volunteered eagerly for night missions, now hesitate. They smoke in silence before takeoff. They check instruments twice. Some quietly ask to be reassigned. They know something the commanders do not yet want to admit. This enemy does not fight fair. At an American airfield on Bougainville, radar vans sit parked behind revetments, cables snaking into command tents. Inside one of them, Lieutenant Harold Brennan, Army Air Forces, sips lukewarm coffee as he watches his scope. To him, the war looks almost peaceful. Dots move across the screen. Vectors are calculated. Voices are calm. When a dot disappears, he marks the time. Another aircraft gone. Brennan has never seen the faces of the men he kills. He will never know their names. The machine does not care. Japanese intelligence finally intercepts enough information to confirm the truth. American radar is not a single device. It is a system. Ship-based radar picks up incoming aircraft far out at sea. Shore stations extend coverage inland. Controllers coordinate fighters long before the enemy is within visual range. By the time Japanese crews see gunfire, the Americans have already won. Emergency countermeasures are proposed. Fly lower, hugging the waves. Fly higher, above expected intercept altitudes. Send aircraft singly instead of in groups. Change routes constantly. Each idea is tested. Each fails. Radar sees altitude. Radar sees speed. Radar sees movement. The night itself has become transparent. In December 1943, a meeting is held behind closed doors. The conclusion is grim. Japan cannot match American radar production. Industrial capacity is too limited. Skilled operators are too few. Training takes time they no longer have. Darkness, a resource they once took for granted, is gone. Instructors at flight schools struggle to adapt. How do you train pilots to fight an enemy they cannot see? How do you teach evasive maneuvers against a voice guiding death from beyond the clouds? Students listen, they practice, but confidence drains away with each lesson. The old rules no longer apply. Meanwhile, American confidence grows quietly. Pilots trust their controllers. Controllers trust their screens. Commanders trust the system. Night missions become routine. Efficiency replaces heroics. The war accelerates. By early 1944, Japanese commanders stop dismissing radar. They stop laughing at it. They begin planning around it, avoiding night raids, conserving aircraft, preparing for a defensive war fought in daylight despite the risks. The irony is bitter. Daylight means exposure to superior American fighters. Night means death without warning. There is no safe choice left. Commander Takahashi flies one final night mission in January. This time, the formation turns back early. Radar-guided fighters are detected nearby. Again unseen, again precise. No bombs are dropped. The mission is aborted. Takahashi lands knowing the truth his superiors now quietly accept. The Americans have removed chance from the sky. And when chance is gone, courage follows it into irrelevance. The darkness that once protected Japanese air power now betrays it. And with every blip that fades from an American radar screen, another piece of Japan's air arm disappears, silently, methodically, and beyond recovery. March 18th, 1944, 2:11 a.m., over the waters east of Saipan. The clouds are low and uneven, dragging across the sky like torn cloth. Below them, the Pacific reflects nothing, no moon, no stars, only darkness broken occasionally by the faint glow of distant ships. A Japanese bomber crew climbs steadily, hoping altitude will buy them time. It will not. Inside a radar trailer on Saipan, the air smells of hot electronics and damp canvas. Fans hum, screens glow softly. Technical Sergeant Raymond Alvarez leans forward, eyes locked on his scope. "There," he says, "multiple contacts. Bearing 165, speed steady." The officer beside him nods. "Vector the fighters." High above, a P-61 Black Widow turns smoothly in the dark. Captain William Harper, Army Air Forces, rests one hand lightly on the controls. The Black Widow is heavy, powerful, built for exactly this moment. Its nose-mounted radar antenna feeds a constant stream of data to the operator behind him. "Target dead ahead," the operator says calmly. 2 miles, slightly below. Harper does not scan the sky. He doesn't have to. This is the final evolution of the system Japanese commanders feared but could not stop. Radar does not merely warn anymore. It hunts. The Black Widow descends, invisible against the clouds. The Japanese bomber crew hears nothing until the first shells hit. The aircraft disintegrates in seconds. Fuel ignites. Metal tears apart. Fire blooms briefly, then vanishes as wreckage falls into the sea. No distress call, no evasive maneuver, no fight. Across the Pacific, the pattern repeats. Night fighters patrol predictable routes, guided by overlapping radar coverage. Bombers are intercepted far from their targets, destroyed before they can even confirm enemy presence. The Americans have turned defense into offense, darkness into a trap. Japanese intelligence intercepts fragments of American communications but cannot decipher their full meaning. They hear calm voices, precise timing, brief exchanges. There is no excitement, no urgency, just control. Pilots who survive speak of the same sensation. It felt like we were already surrounded. They knew where we would turn. We were hunted before we arrived. Some begin to believe radar can see thoughts as well as aircraft. Fear spreads faster than facts. In Tokyo, one senior commander finally says out loud what many have been thinking. "We are fighting tomorrow's war with yesterday's tools." No one argues. American planners, meanwhile, expand radar coverage relentlessly. New stations rise on captured islands. Ships move in coordinated screens. Fighters are trained specifically for night interception. Losses drop. Confidence rises. The night sky belongs to one side now. By late 1944, Japanese night raids over major American positions have nearly ceased, not because the threat is gone, but because sending aircraft into darkness has become an act of futility. Aircraft are too scarce, crews too valuable, and radar waits patiently, indifferent to sacrifice. Captain Harper lands his Black Widow before dawn. Ground crew swarm the aircraft, checking guns, refueling, preparing it for another sortie. Harper climbs down the ladder, expression neutral. Another mission completed, another enemy erased. He never saw them. As the sun rises, smoke from distant fires drifts across the horizon. The night's work is done. And somewhere on a plotting board, erased grease pencil marks tell the story of aircraft that entered the dark and never came out. July 9th, 1945, 12:44 a.m., over the home islands. The air is hot and still, heavy with smoke drifting up from the cities below. Searchlights sweep half-heartedly across the clouds, more out of habit than hope. Everyone knows they are too late. Radar stations have already done the real work. A lone Japanese interceptor climbs through turbulence, its engine straining, fuel nearly gone before the pilot ever reaches altitude. Lieutenant Hiroto Matsuda grips the controls, sweat running into his eyes. His aircraft shudders as it climbs, patched, worn, flying on borrowed time. Somewhere beyond the clouds, American aircraft are already waiting. He cannot see them, but he knows they see him. By now, Japanese commanders no longer speak of regaining the night. They speak of survival. Fuel shortages ground most aircraft. Radar coverage around the home islands is fragmented and outdated. Pilots are rushed through training programs that once took years. Darkness, once an advantage, now amplifies every weakness. American radar coverage rings Japan like a tightening net. Ship-based stations detect aircraft before they reach land. Shore stations hand off targets seamlessly. Night fighters climb precisely into position, guided by voices that never raise in pitch. There is no confusion. There is no chance. Matsuda hears nothing before the impact. A burst of cannon fire slams into his aircraft from above and behind. Instruments go dark. The engine dies instantly. As the interceptor falls, he finally understands what older pilots tried to explain. This is not combat. This is erasure. By the final months of the war, Japanese night aviation has effectively ceased to exist. Aircraft that take off rarely return. Commanders stop authorizing night raids altogether. Crews are reassigned to desperate daylight missions or held back for defense that never comes. The sky grows quiet, not because the war is ending, but because one side has been rendered invisible to the other. American after-action reports describe the outcome plainly. Radar reduced surprise to zero. Interceptions occurred at will. Enemy losses mounted without proportional cost. The language is sterile. The effect is total. After the surrender, surviving Japanese officers reflect on what changed the war in the air. Some mentioned aircraft. Some mentioned fuel. Some mentioned training. But many mentioned radar, not as a device, but as a realization, the moment when darkness stopped being protection. For centuries, night favored the bold, the skilled, the unseen. In World War II, that ended. Radar gave sight where none existed before. It replaced uncertainty with information, instinct with data, courage with inevitability. Entire squadrons vanished, not because they were outflown, but because they were outknown. The last Japanese night sortie fades from memory, unrecorded, unseen. On an American radar screen, the final blip disappears. The operator marks the time, and the sky, once full of engines and fire, falls silent.